It's the sound of my vicious dog while I'm trying to record. The dog is fighting my wife.
Welcome to About to Break, episode 15.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
We just finished dinner. We had a lovely pizza. Didn't we have a good pizza, Kins?
Yes.
We had a great pizza. We tried a new pizza place by the house, and I did a recording earlier, so I got my mic set up, so the kids are going to help me out with some of the intros here. Kinsey, what episode are we on?
Episode 15.
That's right, episode 15. Maddie, do you remember who's on this episode?
Taylor Wong.
That's right, Taylor Wong, the photographer from the Magic Castle. It's a really good one. There's so much good stuff in here. There's a surprise appearance by Taylor's roommate. Started snoring really loud while we were recording. So that's going to be on here. And it also ends with us doing a duet of one of your favorite Queen songs. So the podcast ends with us singing. So stick around for that. A couple of dates to mention to you guys. April 1st, I'm going to be in Seattle, Washington with my buddy Zach Gandera, and we are going to be doing a live show there. It's going to be really fun. Tickets are available, $10 online, and there's a link on abouttobreakpodcast.com. You can get tickets to that. April 29th, I'll be here in my hometown of Upland at the Sycamore Inn with my cousin Obie Hughes. We're doing an Ellington Hawk show. There's also a link to purchase tickets for that. And coming soon, May 10th, folks, is our very first About to Break live show. We're going to be announcing the acts that are going to be a part of that soon, but you won't want to miss it. It's going to be really good. Until then, sit back, relax,
And enjoy the show.
Good job. Well, hey everybody, welcome to About to Break. I'm your host, Taylor Hughes, and today I am with Taylor Wong from the Magic Castle.
How's it going, you guys?
Listen to his voice. It's such a deep... My voice is naturally kind of high, and when I get excited, it just gets higher. And I've never had like the cool, like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, it just takes years and years of smoking cigarettes, being influenced at a horribly young age.
Oh man, dude, you're very young now, right? I mean, how young? How old are you?
I'm 26.
26.
As a lady told me once, I look no older than 38.
Did she say that to you?
Yeah. The funny thing is, she was actually older than me, and I had to rub that in.
Yeah, that's not cool. You've got the stash going though. This is a... How long has this been a part of your life, the mustache?
Mustache, probably. I've tried starting to grow one around 21.
Okay.
And I would always grow in the little patchy mustache. For some reason, my facial hair puberty hit around 23.
Okay.
Then it started growing into this full-on Italian Mario kind of mustache.
So before you would shave, but it would just be like peach fuzz kind of thing?
Yeah, it started out peach fuzz, then like a few long hairs every, you know, like Hispanic guys like me do get. They want to grow it, and then the Cuban side and the Italian side kicked in, and all of a sudden it was just like a chia pet on my face.
I'm gonna make sure that whatever photo we use for the picture for this podcast is got a good visual of the stash, because it's good. A lot of guys are trying to do it. And you ever see a guy who's trying and they're like, you know, they trying to do a little twist and it's this little thin thing and it's like, guys, just, it's not for you.
The only tip I can give out for that is everybody always does the trimming above the lip, and because they don't want the mustache getting in their mouth, but that's what makes it look all weird. Because you get this straight line, you gotta let it all just grow out. You just gotta
let it go.
If you want the mustache, you just gotta understand you're gonna have to.
You can't go halfway. You gotta really commit.
Exactly. Who's the guy in Big Lebowski and the cowboy? That's who. That's always the mustache that I think of as the.
That's a good balance, man. You don't want too thin, but then you don't want to go full like the Lorax, where it's just
exactly.
No chin, just all. That's the Wilford Brimley. Once you get the mustache that's so big you can't see your neck.
Very cartoony.
Yeah. Welcome to Men's Facial Grooming with Taylor and Taylor. So Taylor, you are Hispanic.
I'm a whole mutt.
You're a whole mix.
So my
your last name is Wong.
Yeah. So,
is that ever confusing for folks when they?
Oh yeah, I get anytime I use my debit card, I get carded.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, especially when it's an Asian guy behind the register.
They're always looking out, making sure you're not stealing someone's identity.
Exactly. On my dad's side, I'm Cuban Chinese, very little Chinese, only 1/8, so mostly Cuban.
But the name?
Yeah, the name just kept passing down. Well, we had gone over from China to Cuba, and that's where we kept, I guess, reproducing, and so there weren't as many Chinese women as there would be in China.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So then once we came over to America, and my dad met an Italian German Jew, being my mom, and so then came in that side, the half white side.
Does your family? Please tell me your family cooks.
My mom cooks.
Because everything you just said, and this is terrible to whittle down someone's ethnicity. You just, in describing your heritage, you've described all of my favorite foods.
The only bummer for me is my favorite out of all of it that I didn't appreciate till later on in life was Cuban food. And
amazing!
And all my Cuban family lived in Florida, and before my grandmother seemed unhealthy, I was trying to get her to teach me recipes. I learned one recipe, which I never wrote down, so I have to try and remember it by heart.
Yeah.
And then she passed away, and the rest of my family, my Cuban family, for some reason doesn't cook. They all expected my grandmother to cook for them, so it's kind of been lost. And I was always taught that Cuban restaurants like Versailles, terrible Cuban food. So I have this high standard now, and I will.
You should resurge it, man. You could carry it on to the next generation of Wongs.
I've met many Cuban people out here in LA that I've always asked them. I'm like, you gotta teach me some recipes. I need to know.
You know, when I first started doing magic, I would do birthday parties, and the birthday party thing. When you're like, here's one of the things about magic that's great is when you're like 14, people will pay you to come to their birthday party and do card tricks, right? Or do like a little show. So I would do a show, it would always be like the face painting clown, the bounce house. Then I'd do a show. But the best was when I would get invited to a Cuban family or a Filipino family because they insisted that you ate. And it was like the biggest insult if you wouldn't eat the food. And I was always just be like, okay, yes, absolutely. But I would look forward to that because I was making like $15 or whatever I was getting paid to do a magic show, and then I would eat like 5 weeks worth of food.
I'm surprised I stayed so skinny growing up because every time my parents would send me up to visit my Cuban family, like they'd try and fatten me up. I just had such a fast metabolism. So
Taylor, you're too skinny.
Every time, and now it all caught up to me.
Now, where did the Taylor name come from? Was it a family name? Was it they liked it?
My parents liked it. They went with the most generic white names. I'm Taylor, and then my sister on that era of my dad's marriages is Sarah.
Okay.
Then
wait, your sister's name is Sarah?
Yeah.
With an H or no H?
No H.
My sister's name is Sarah, no H.
That's crazy. So.
Oh my goodness.
This is like a bizarro world.
I know, man. Okay, the connection has begun. Okay.
So, my dad has now remarried and has kids that look very, very white because his wife is blonde hair, blue-eyed. And so these kids are Antonio and Isabella.
Oh.
But they look whiter than my sister and I.
Your family it's a modern family. It is. Yes, here we go.
My dad always told me one day everybody would start to look Pacific Islander if we just kept reading the right way.
If we just kept reading the right way, he said?
Well, not like this is some dumb.
He's like, all right, I have a formula.
Yeah.
The last time a guy started thinking that way, it didn't end up so well.
I think my family knew something about that at one point.
Yes. I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about, first of all, I met you because you are the photographer at the Magic Castle in Hollywood.
That I am one of two.
One of two people in the entire world who are allowed to take pictures in the Magic Castle. As Taylor and I are talking about the Magic Castle, I realize some of you may not know much about the castle, so to describe it in lengthy detail, here's my two daughters, Madeline and Kennedy.
It's a castle on this hill. It's not really a castle, it's more of a mansion that's covered in owls. And it's really cool. They have fun events there. And there's this big brunch, and there's so much to eat. It's a great place to go and hang out with your friends. You should probably go there. It's delicious. And they have this piano that is played by a ghost named Irma, and you can ask her anything to play, and she will play it, except for Moana music. Big bummer. Kind of takes away the magic. Well, the Disney magic. Well, there's these shows. There's all these magicians who go there. It is so fun. They have big illusions. I've actually been been picked from the audience to be in one of the shows a couple times, which I have been in since my dad is a magician. Now, back to podcast. Woo! Booyah! Booyah!
It's crazy because when I started my photo career, I never thought that I'd be able to say that I was one of those two people. And like the history of that even goes back to such a cool beginning with Cary Grant, starting the rule of the no photos in the castle because of the people he'd bring there.
Right. So for the people who are listening who maybe they don't know the castle or they've heard of it but aren't really sure about it, the castle is a private club here in Hollywood.
Yep.
You live literally like 3 blocks from the castle.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't at first. When I started working there, I lived a little further down. But after a year of working there, I knew that I'd be there for quite some time. I don't plan on leaving. So I was like, might as well move even closer.
Oh, it's so great, man. So the castle is this private club for magicians, which it's so much cooler than I can ever describe it, because when I describe it, it doesn't sound as cool. But it's a private club for magicians and their guests. And some of the best performers in the world come through there. And what's great is it's one of the few places in LA that's kind of kept that old Hollywood vibe where, you got to get dressed up. It's like suit and tie, and there's secret, words you got to say to get in. You got to know a member, and
that's what the great thing about the whole dressing up thing is. Like like you said, you don't see that much in Hollywood, and it's crazy because you'll see people show up and they'll be wearing jeans and a blazer and stuff, and to them that's what dressed up is. People don't understand what a proper suit is anymore. Wearing a tie and actually buttoning it up to the top button. It's a rarity amongst today's youth.
It's pretty cool when you get in there and you see everyone who they've come out. And they've come out to see a show and to have some drinks and to have a good time and dressed to the hilt. And what I love is, so Taylor, again, one of the 2 photographers at the castle, they don't allow photos. And like you said, Cary Grant started this rule because he was a member, and as a celebrity, you can't really go anywhere without having your photo taken.
Exactly.
And now everyone's got their camera phones.
And even back then, there weren't camera phones, and it was still such an accessible thing for people to even have just a camera.
Right.
That was still annoying enough. Back then,
right,
to have your photo taken all the time. So,
and because of that, the castle has kind of kept this. It is still a place where celebrities will come and feel comfortable and bring up guests. And I mean, I'm sure I know that I've been able to meet and perform for several celebrities there. But I mean, I'm sure this is like a nightly thing for you.
Oh yeah, well, I've been told I'm allowed to mention people after the night that they've been there.
Okay, I was going to ask. I don't want to.
I'm not
if we need to edit this in a way, I don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, I'm not going to start bragging about people I've seen, but being able to meet people like Dick Van Dyke and Paul Rubens, or as most people know him as Pee Wee Herman. My favorite, I had to text my sister this because she would have loved it, but last night, Vanessa Hudgens, is that her name from High School Musical? She asked me where the bathroom was in the castle. So
oh, that's awesome.
I thought that was funny. Those are the cool things. And we even have celebrity members too. I don't know if I'm allowed to say those things, but it's cool because I was able to see a certain person on a show literally the night before, and then the next day, because he's a member, I see him at the castle, and I get to tell him that I saw his show the night before.
It's great. Yeah. It's so great. How did you end up? So first of all, I want to talk about. We'll get to how you ended up in photography and in art, because really, I think we're at a weird point right now where, because good cameras are so accessible, everyone thinks they're a photographer.
I even had a girl in one of the shows at the castle, and she sees me sit down in the reserve seat, and it says photographer on my seat, and she goes, "Oh, I just started doing this. How did you get into this job?" And me being at work, I probably gave her some smart ass answer, and she goes, "Well, I have a Nikon Coolpix, which, for anybody who doesn't know, those are the point and shoot cameras that your mom buys to go on vacation."
They're like today's equivalent of the disposable.
Yeah, and I haven't kept up with the cool pics. I think they even have ones that change lenses now, which may sound all professional and cool, but so this girl's trying to then tell me that she could do my job with this point and shoot camera, and I'm not going to be an asshole and tell her that, no, you can't, but in my head I'm like, no, you can't do this job.
It's a weird thing, and I'm sure, I have several friends who do photography for a living, and it's been a challenge because, similarly to with magic's one of the few things where you can't go into a music store, buy a guitar, walk out and go, I'm a guitarist. Because you have to learn and you have to practice.
Oh, I know, because I've done that.
But you can go into a magic shop, walk out with enough tricks to put on a show and to get hired to do a show.
Yeah.
And now with photography, we've given people enough tools that they feel like they've learned some technique, when really it's maybe the tool that's doing it.
Even with photography, so in high school, I picked up photography because I was nominated for the yearbook staff by a teacher, and I hated writing at the time. So in my head, I was like, well, what's the one job I can do on the yearbook that doesn't involve writing? And I'm like, oh, well, photography. So I get into it, find out both my dad and grandfather had always wanted to be photographers. I start to find a passion, but that was around the year when DSLR cameras were becoming very accessible,
right,
a lot more affordable. And so going into college, I was like, well, screw this. This isn't going to make me money. Everybody wants to be a photographer. And I started going through all these different majors until I finally realized I wanted to get back into photography. And what got me back into it was I knew photographers that were in the party scene that their photos were terrible, but they were paying their rent by consistently getting gigs. And it's all, I hate to say it, but it is about who you know and the connections you make. Like even getting regular jobs in LA these days, my roommate got me my last job at the restaurant that I worked at before the Castle. I worked celebrity catering for a good portion of time because of a friend who was a head chef for it.
Yeah.
Worked food trucks because of people I knew.
I'm glad you're talking about this, because this is one of the things that a lot of people who want to do anything in entertainment don't get.
Yeah.
You could be the best musician, you could be the most amazing filmmaker, you could be the greatest comedian. But if you just sit in your room and work on your stuff and don't ever go out and meet people and network and connect and actually be just genuinely care about people,
yeah.
You're not going to get a gig.
But sometimes you get lucky. Like me and my roommate's a very talented producer, and like that's not what he wants to do now. But at one point we were DJs. And he had always told me, like, he's not the best with socializing on a business aspect, but luckily I was really good at making connections for us, that even though I was a terrible DJ, I was pretty much just the hype man. We got amazing gigs. Like, we opened up for Skrillex at one point before anybody really knew who he was, Wolfgang Gartner, like all these big name DJs in the club scene, and we got to open up for them. But it's sometimes teamwork. You can be unlucky and not have the social skills and then not have anybody appreciate your work for you. But if you're really that good, sometimes you have someone find you and want to help you and push you to be that star.
Oh, that's so good. The whole idea of collaboration. I mean, I think about, and this is kind of a funny reference to bring up in the middle of this, but like Elton John, right? Like, known as this amazing performer, amazing musician, he didn't write most of the lyrics that we've heard him sing. He had a partner who did that, And I think that's that's another huge thing people underestimate.
That goes into magic too. Tricks get sold and are traded. Back to the songwriting, that song "Needles and Pins," the Ramones do. Many artists have done it. Sonny Bono wrote that song. Cher's husband. Yeah, so songs, art, it all gets traded and picked up, and it's like a community thing sometimes, and it can be a great community. Everybody helps each other become big.
You were at a point where you liked photography, then you thought, I can't make money doing this, but then you saw your friends, you were saying, in the party scene, making money, paying their bills.
So I started to try and get into party photography, which, being someone like me who enjoys having a lot of fun. And growing up, I had gone through my experimental phase, like if we're to keep it more of a PG description of the problems I had growing up. But, partying was just starting to become bad for my health. The money that I was making was just going back to drinking at the bar or whatever the hell else I was doing that night, or going any places I was going. So the party scene got me to the point where I was meeting people, at least in other industries. And I met this girl, and then we started to kind of hit it off a little. And she was a writer for a music publication. And one night that when we were together, she was like, well, I have to go cover the show for the Black Lips, one of my favorite bands. And she's like, I could use a photographer. She's like, I know you do photography and all that, so you want to do it. And the publication loved my photos so much that they kept giving me gigs. But this was like a college publication that wasn't paying me to do it, but at least I was getting exposure. Like bands were now seeing my photos, reblogging it. And that carried on until the point where like I was covering a show at the Hollywood Bowl for this publication, and the guy sharing my box happened to be writing for another publication. We kicked it off, and then we started a thing called Janky Smooth, and that's where now I am now. So I do Magic Castle, and then on the side, my side hustle would be helping run, I'm doing air quotes because I'm really just the original photographer of the publication. Danny Braz does almost everything, and it amazes me how far he's carried us with our publication. But we now have like a team, and like that's, if I could make that a money gig, like that'd be competing for my heart for between the castle and that. Like it's just the idea that I can shoot something that I love. Like I love that all I do is shoot entertainment. Because growing up, I would ditch school and all I wanted to do was go have fun somewhere. Like I wasn't necessarily going to get stoned and stuff when I ditched school. I'd leave to come to Hollywood and see all the street performers and stuff. And all I wanted to do was always be entertained. That's I always wanted to find a career where all I had to do was be entertained. And somehow I did it.
We were talking earlier about first of all your style of your photography. It does bring this kind of elegant grittiness. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is very rock and roll. I feel like so many people, everything is over filtered and it just looks fake.
Yeah.
And you're able to capture in a very stylistic, very raw way, and yet it's elegant. But it really is like, I feel like when I look at a photo, I feel like I'm in the room when it's happening, you know? It's so unique in photography, but it's hugely unique in magic, because magic, and I feel like I can speak to this because I grew up in it and still do it. It gets kind of a hokey rap when it comes to marketing and photography and costuming and that kind of stuff. And so I just love what you've been able to do to bring kind of this rock and roll flair to it.
Yeah, once I got into the castle, like originally we weren't even doing the shows. I was just there to be pretty much like that Disneyland photographer when you see you walk in.
Yeah,
and the guy takes
people
a picture.
aren't allowed to take pictures there, but we want to give them an opportunity to
So,
have a souvenir and an experience.
So that was the original gig, and then they changed up some things about the dynamics of that. So there's a lot more time on my hands, and I brought it up that we need to archive the stuff that happens in the shows. You never know when. It's the same thing with why I do rock and roll photography, is because you never know when one of these smaller bands is going to be the next Ramones or something. I want to be the one capturing that history, and I think the castle should have an archive of that, because you never know when one of these younger magicians or one of these people we just had for the first time becomes the next big Copperfield or something like that. And so when I get into the showrooms, even when it comes to the smaller rooms like the close-up gallery, where it's not stage lighting and stuff, like I try and capture mostly like even performers will mention that what they want is the crowd's reactions. And even though I'm sitting in the crowd shooting, they have people up there, but I like to make sure that it's an expression. And since you can't always tell that with even that, I try and adjust the lighting and the colors to give it more of that vibe that I felt during the show. Yeah. So like some people have a darker show, like Ron Zabrecki, like his is very dark. I like to kind of bring the saturation down where it kind of gives it that old kind of vibe to it. I do a lot of black and white with really sharp features and everything like that.
Yeah, and others might have more of like a whimsical flair, kind of a carnival type atmosphere, and you can create. I love that, because how many times have you seen like somebody take a photo or shoot a video and you're at the event, right? and you're like, this was the greatest experience ever. And then you watch a video afterward and you're like, oh, that looks kind of lame. But it's like in the moment, somehow as an artist, as a photographer, as a videographer, you have to capture the feeling that sometimes if you just take raw footage, it doesn't.
Exactly. Well, I mean, that's why I say other people can't just pick up a camera and do this. And I hate being that guy because I know a guy who I knew him before he ever started shooting, and he was joining us at shows, and he started picking up photography, and now he's an amazing photographer. I would say he might even be better than me sometimes. So I'm not going to tell people that they can't just pick up a camera and start becoming a photographer, but you can't pick up those point and shoots. Like, the reason why I'm shooting the shows is because I bring a different aspect to the photos that give it a little more life than the people that are just taking the photos, and now you just have, it's like you just pulled a screen grab of what the hell happened that night, and that's about it.
I love it. My cousin's a musician, and we just talked recently about I think it was Miles Davis. I hope I say it right. Miles Davis was talking about, like, he said anybody can play. He's like 20% is hitting the right note, and 80% is the attitude of the person playing the note. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we've heard somebody play a song, and you're like, oh yeah, I've heard that song before, and then somebody else plays that same song, and all of a sudden there's like this extra bit of something special, some magic.
Well, because I was even just thinking about that the other day, because, you know, bands, they constantly will change out members and stuff, but you have people like Slash or George Harrison, like they may have only George Harrison sang, but you have people that have only played the instrument, or a bit like they brought a certain type of soul to that playing. Because like, I was listening to a Beatles remaster of their tracks, and it sounded almost like someone went in the studio and decided to re-record all the instruments because you couldn't hear the feeling from the original Beatles. So certain musicians bring that feeling, but there are those bands where it really is note by note. Yeah, and like you can change out those people. It's crazy how it can differentiate. Like, you can go play the piano and play some of Mozart's stuff, but like no one will ever know what it was like to hear Mozart actually play that.
Oh, wow!
Like, there must have been some sort of
energy. That's wild. I've never thought about that. I've never thought about that.
Especially when bands try and change out the singer. That's like, keep the name too.
Yeah, come on. And then they try to do all the ad libs and runs and stuff like that. It's like, no, don't. Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. It sounds like karaoke.
That exactly. And I, for some reason, keep getting drunk and trying to do karaoke lately, and that is.
What's your go-to? What's your karaoke tune? Do you have like a genre that you kind of?
I pick really long songs that nobody wants to hear my monotonous voice.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Exactly.
It's like an 8-minute long ballad.
I do. That's actually always my go-to. I have to be really drunk because that's the one song that I know all the words to, that I could do it myself.
Oh my goodness. We should end this episode of the podcast with the two of us just singing it a cappella.
I have a free bottle that someone gave me of champagne from the castle. I could just down that.
Castle champagne isn't gonna get you there. I don't think that's gonna do it.
Oh man!
What is your absolute favorite kind of shows to shoot? Doesn't have to be magic shows.
No, I mean, I do love shooting magic.
Right.
Because, well, even in music, I never was able to play an instrument, so I can't even say that I know music, but I have such a passion for music, and that's why I originally got into photography for bands, is because it was my way to contribute without actually being able to play or even sing. I always wanted to be a singer for a band, and I got cursed with... I might have been able to before I started smoking. Who knows? But I like the smaller concerts of more... the newer bands that don't have such a big volume, because you see a lot of passion in the show, so you can get a lot of emotion. But I love doing big shows. Like, I just did Adam Ant on Friday, and
really
I was telling one of the other photographers, I had an Adam Ant pin on my leather jacket that I've had that pin for a good 10 years at least. I remember getting it while I was still in high school. I had I ditched school and went to like Jet Rag or something. I found it in a pin box, and I lose all my pins, but for some reason I've always had that. And I'm wearing it there, and like, I was super excited to be able to say that I've shot Adam Ant. Like, I've gotten to shoot Ringo Starr. I've gotten to I can't. There's so many bands I could list, and even the newer stuff. Like I've shot Band of Horses. Band of Horses.
Band of Horses.
Yeah,
I think it's a Band of Horses.
Yeah, Band of Horses, not bands.
Wouldn't it be rad if like you just heard the record and you're like, this is great. You showed up and it's literally horses. And then you would be like, I shouldn't have smoked before.
Now I'm just seeing that BoJack Horseman character in my head playing that one really mellow song. Yeah, it's just crazy though. Also, how spoiled I've gotten though with the fact that I can almost get access to any show. Like I wanted to go shoot Alice Cooper on Halloween, and I was like, I can get that. And we put in our press request, and I didn't get access to it. And I was like, $300 is too much to see Alice Cooper. And I'm like, like I actually. There's some bands like Black Sabbath. I didn't get press access to that. I spent like $250 on a ticket to go see Black Sabbath. That was great.
I'm just sitting here amazed at like. I mean, how long have you been doing photography?
Sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
So, a good 10 years or so, but I didn't start doing it as a career until maybe about 2021, so I've only really been doing this, and even then, like I wasn't really making money. Like up until a year and a half ago, I was bussing tables and bar backing at a tequila bar in Hermosa Beach, just so I could be able to go shoot these concerts.
Do you remember the first gig you got where you felt, and maybe money wasn't involved, but it was like a legitimate gig where you're taking photos and someone's expecting those photos to come across?
Oh yeah, I was still in high school. The girl who cut my hair at Floyd's barbershop in Hermosa Beach was dating Simon Rex, Dirt Nasty, the guy from like Scary Movie 3 and all that. He was on, I think he has an MTV personality for a while. He was playing at the Roxy, but he was playing with Mickey Avalon, Beardo, like all the dyslexic speed reader guys. And she asked me to come take pictures. I think I still have one of the photos that I printed, and they're terrible photos, but like I was so stoked to go, and that I got his email, and I was emailing him the photos, and he told me he loved them, and I think ended up using them on his MySpace page. Didn't credit me or anything like that. Yeah, this is back when it was MySpace and not Facebook still,
right?
So.
Oh yeah, at least it wasn't Zynga.
Oh, I remember Zynga.
Zynga was like this brief window. I can't even picture what it looked like, but it was a thing.
Yeah, I just remember I remember when MySpace came out, and I was still too young to get the concept. My cousin told me to make one. I think he was my only friend on it for a good couple years.
Your top 8 was just your cousin.
Yeah,
just your cousin and Tom.
And Tom. Man, I missed the top 8. It was a good way to tell someone that you're pissed at them. Just drop them off your top 8.
Oh my goodness! I think it's funny that Tom was always like a default. Like
I think he was just lonely.
This guy invented this like massive technology, and then made himself like everybody. Someday, when I grow up, I'm gonna be everybody's best friend. Then he's just eating the fistfuls of donuts.
They need to do, remember that Where Are They Now?
Yeah.
They need to do one of those for Tom for MySpace.
Tom invented MySpace in 1993.
Well, I think they tried to have a resurgence of it with Ashton Kutcher I think it was Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake.
Because after he did Social Network, I think he was I can do this. And he's like, I was in the movie. I got this.
That'd be fun to shoot that guy, huh?
I would love to shoot Justin Timberlake, and actually, I just saw something about NSYNC having a reunion.
They are.
Yeah.
I think I saw it because you posted it.
No, I did not post that.
No.
I did post that NSYNC was my the top 10 albums that influenced you.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what it was.
Just NSYNC.
If you had to pick someone right now that you're like, this is someone I want to shoot, or an event I want to shoot that I haven't shot, do you have one?
Oh, well, I always wanted to shoot David Bowie, but then he went and, kicked the bucket on me. And I'm still cursing him for it, but, well, no. Bowie would have been great. I'd like to shoot Paul McCartney. I would love to. See, to me, it's like, I wish I was there when these artists were young and stuff, right. But to be able to still shoot them when they're older, like doing Adamant the other night, it was one of my bucket list items right there. Also, just being able to be right in the front when he's doing amp music, because there's the photo pit and then there's the crowd, and so I get the first 3 songs right there, where like that's the time I can get my video on my phone because I'm just right in front of him.
That's so cool. You grew up in California, right?
I
Manhattan
did.
Beach?
I grew up in
Hermosa.
the South Bay, and that's why I was a little punk, because that's where like Black Flag and Exbit Fear and all that stuff came out of there. Circle Jerks. I remember seeing the Circle Jerks back in Hermosa after 20 years of not playing in Hermosa. That was cool. And then that's also what got me into wanting to do music photography, is because then when my dad remarried, his brother-in-law was roommates with the drummer for DI, or one of the many drummers for DI. So he would, when I would go to my dad's house, he'd just give me all these cool punk records, and like that's where I got my influence in punk music. And then my mom was doing work with Joe Escalante from the Vandals. So
that's crazy,
he's the first concert I went to see, and that also was what set my bar. Is I got backstage passes to Warped Tour as my first concert. So
that was your first concert experience.
Yeah, 13 years old.
Oh, dude, that's gonna that's too good. That's like dugout tickets at the Dodgers game, and then going and sitting in the nosebleed.
Well, I remember the friend that I'd brought with me was wearing a Bad Religion t-shirt, and we were backstage, and I guess I didn't know at the time that he was in Bad Religion, but one of the guys from Bad Religion goes, "Hey, you guys want to go on stage for the set?" And I go, "Yeah, but one of my friends is on his way back here. Can you wait for him?"
No.
And he's like, "Sure." And then later I see him come on stage with his guitar, and I'm just like, "Oh, crap." I was that guy. But, yeah. Which is funny now, because one of the guys that my partner at Janky Smooth has introduced me to, that we've gone out to a few bars, is Greg Hedson, who was in Bad Religion and Circle Jerks. And so that's the other thing, is now I'm hanging out with these rock stars that they would probably get pissed if I called them rock stars. Yeah. But these guys that were my idols when I was a punk growing up, like now I'm hanging out with them, like shooting Pee Wee Herman at the Castle. And like currently right now we have Scott Land perform. Well, tonight's the last night, but we had Scott Land, the puppeteer who did Team America.
Yeah.
And the first time I shot him there, I realized when I'm walking backstage, I'm looking at all his puppets. I'm like, I've seen these puppets before.
Oh, yeah.
My dad used to take me to the LA library when I was a kid to see puppet shows. And it was Scott Land and Jeff Dunham, because I remember the first time I saw Jeff Dunham on TV, I was like, I remember those puppets.
At the library show.
Yeah, the library show. So they would do kid shows in this library. And so I was able to tell Scott Land that, and my career has brought this nostalgia back, and it blows my mind sometimes. Like I still get giddy when I go out and do
so cool,
my job.
man. And to think about it, I mean, you talk about like connections and who you know, but how. And one of the things I've seen you do at the Castle is you don't just do your job and do it well, which you do, but you're like present with people. Like you'll take a minute, you'll stop, and you'll talk and have a conversation with guests or with performers, and not in a way where we all used to do at the jobs we hate, where we're just trying to kill time and not do the work. But like you're really there and you're present with people, and I think that gives you access into people's world. That
I mean, there is a way to do it in a professional way, because even Scott's wife made a comment to me about how apparently Erica Larson, former president of the Castle, she was amazed by how professional I was dealing with their celebrity guests and whatnot, because I'm taking these people's pictures, and the whole time I want to be like, hey Pee-wee, can I get a photo with you?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, because that would be a messed up thing to do while I'm working.
Right.
And to me, it's just an honor to even be the person behind the camera taking this photo. Like, this is an awesome moment for me. So even saying that it's about who you know, it's not like I'm being like, I got these connections, like I could just call them up, get a job. It's like we have this mutual respect for each other, and to the point where people want to be helping each other out. Like Danny and I at Janky Smooth, we've had that conversation where we owe each other nothing. We're both working off of each other and helping each other grow in different ways.
You have to be on each other's behalf, you know what I mean? And it's one of those things where so many people in entertainment are just trying to get their thing done. They got their thing they want to have made. They've got their show they want to get produced. They've got their art they want people to see. People are attracted to folks who genuinely care. Like, you can't do it in a sleazy way of I still am just trying to care about my thing, but I'm going to pretend to care about your thing because people will see through that.
Exactly.
But
people definitely know.
it's not just who you know, but it's who you are, which allows those people to want to connect with you and work with you. And
Exactly.
which is why people request to have you shoot or things like that. It's like, you just got to be a good person in the midst of all of the nonsense that is this.
It's just about being genuine. Like if you're gonna be a piece of shit, just be honest. And be a piece of shit. Don't.
Yeah. Well, that's why there's
front,
some people like. I think the epitome would be like Kanye. You know what I mean? Who like unashamedly, this is who I am, and people are like, man, that guy's a jerk. Did you hear a new song?
Exactly. He's open about being an asshole. So people are like, okay, you're an asshole, but your music's still good. So
I really think. Yeah, I think people are just there's too much fake.
I'm not good enough to be that asshole. I can't genuinely not care because no one would give a shit about me.
What are some things that either you see young photographers doing that is hindering their growth, or what are some things that have been like helpful to you? And
one thing that I noticed that can really put a stopper on people's careers is when they start to think they're better than they actually are. Like, some people are fantastic. I even goes to musicians. I've watched musicians ruin their chances of ever playing venues again because they start pushing lawsuits because security guards and shit got a little roughhoused and whatnot. I've witnessed some photographers just really put out that they're better than whoever they're working for, and that if it weren't for them, that they wouldn't be where they are. Now they've lost one source of income,
right,
or one source of a way to show their work. And one advice because I go and I do a guest speaker thing at my old high school sometimes, where we talk about life after high school, which is kind of like somewhat what we're doing now, but everybody there is always someone that's graduated college. I'm always the one kid that I didn't even actually graduate from the high school that I do this at. I ended up leaving to go to continuation school. So I go there, and I've had kids ask me, well, I'm a photographer. How do I get to the point where you are? And I always tell them, it's not about getting that diploma. You don't need a piece of paper that says you can do this. It's about showing your work and making sure it's seen and making sure that it's constantly growing. Because, you can't teach an eye. You can teach the functions of taking a good photo. The shutter speed, your ISO, white balance, all that. It's a science, but knowing what you're shooting and seeing something more than what's actually there is something that you have to also be able to see yourself. You have to know that you have that. You can't just assume that you have it. Like I've seen some photographers just never grow, and they keep going with it. I'm like, at a certain point, you just gotta realize that maybe this isn't your thing, and you should move on to something else. Like, I always tell these kids, make sure you're growing, make sure your photography's constantly changing. My stuff might have been good, another air quote thing, at the beginning of when Jakey Smooth started, but I've watched, and the guy I run my publication with has watched me grow so much in the way that I shoot. My framing, the details, the color and everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's constantly changing. Maybe not always for the better, but the fact that things are constantly changing, like, I get tired of what I'm seeing sometimes. Like, I want it to change. I want it to look better.
I like that you say, like, and this goes back to you like being real with where you're at. Sometimes you'll make a change as an artist and you go, that didn't get me where I wanted it to be, but it was still worth making a change because now I've learned something.
Exactly. Yeah, you're constantly learning, especially from your mistakes. If you, like, maybe black and whites weren't the thing I should have tried on those kinds of photos and stuff, like, you learn.
That's really challenging me because I feel like as an entertainer, so many guys, they get into a certain type of work and they just do what works for that.
Do you hear my roommate snoring?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Hold on, let's listen. The male species in his natural state. Listen to his call to the female. That was fantastic. I see this happen with magicians a lot and with comedians. Now I'm like concerned that he's not breathing when he stops.
No, he does that because he's either a really loud snorer.
Yeah.
And some days, like, I won't hear any snoring coming from his place, so I'll go downstairs to go get my car, but his car's blocking me. I'm like, crap, he's in there. I'm like, wait, he wasn't snoring, though. Oh, that was a loud one. But so I'll be like, did he just die? And sometimes I'm like, I gotta get to work. I'm like, should I just deal with this when I get home? I'm like, that's a terrible thing for me to think. It's funny. I didn't think that would have been an issue with us recording this.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I'm glad he's catching up on rest. That's a good thing.
I feel like he's got enough rest.
Oh, I was saying, I feel like a lot of guys, they get to a point where they create something that works, right? Mm-hmm. And they stop creating. And I said, we see this with magicians all the time. How many guys
same act
doing the same act for 20 years? And I'm just thinking, why?
I might actually instill a new rule where if I've shot you 4 times and your set doesn't change, I'm going to skip your show at the castle. Not to bash any magicians.
Not to bash anybody, but listen, there's a saying in theater, and magicians use this all the time, that every move's a picture, right? When you're doing performance art, you should be able to pause at any moment, and that should give the audience a visual to remember, right?
Yeah.
So you're actually taking pictures.
Yeah.
And when somebody's wearing the same costume, using the same props, telling the same joke, having the same
magicians,
beats.
I think, only own one suit.
Well, you know the difference between a magician and a deck of cards? A deck of cards has 3 more suits.
That's good.
You know the difference between a magician and a large lasagna from Costco?
No.
The large lasagna can feed a family of 4.
Oh.
Oh, hey. Oh, I joke, but the cuts go deep.
That's funny. Someone actually, I posted about how I wanted to break something, and a magician comments. He's like, "Oh, how much do you make? Can you afford that?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm the photographer at the Magic Castle, so we'll go with that."
That's a funny thing, man. I think maybe it's because magicians get that all the time. I mean, do you get that a lot? Do people go, so you make a living doing this?
I mean, and I'm not going to bash how much I make at the castle because it's clearly enough to at least live off of, which is definitely.
No.
But yeah, no, people think because I shoot these big bands and stuff, or like that I shoot this prestigious club, that I must be rolling in dough. And like, I'm comfortable being a single male in LA, not having children and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's definitely not what I was expecting to be making one day. Like, I thought that I'd be making what my parents were making, living in Manhattan Beach and stuff, because I also had this idea that I'd go to school where that school could actually provide me a job that I could get.
Exactly, because there's a lot of people who did do that route and not doing nearly as good as you are.
But one of the things, though, that I am happy about, though, is that I am happy with what I do, and that the amount of money that I make is totally fine with me, with being able to be happy all the time.
Yeah, you cannot do art because of money.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm having to remind myself this all the time. Because being a guy who I do entertainment full time, and I got a wife and 2 kids and a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
And we live in California, which is also why I live like an hour outside of here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be looking into buying property soon, and I'm worried about having to move further away from LA.
It's a great blessing to be able to make a living doing something you love. There's also that balance of keeping things artistic and monetizing what you do.
Yeah.
And how do you find that balance when it's like, I love that I get paid to do this, but I also have to sometimes do things because they pay the bills that I'm not passionate about.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of where I got to the point where I started putting more time in at the castle than the Janky Smooth publication, because, as much as I love shooting bands, it doesn't pay, and it doesn't give me health insurance and stuff. And
exactly.
like I said, I turned 26 back in December, and I got lucky enough that I lasted till Trump took presidency, but I had insurance, and then I'm at that point in life where I have to worry about things like that. It's crazy getting old.
It is, man. It is really weird.
Especially when I wake up every day thinking I have some sort of new growth, or like my back's going. I'm like everything I just assume.
You're like WebMDing yourself.
Oh no,
do you do that?
I'm my own WebMD. I just assume everything's cancer.
Do you really? And then you get stressed out and go have a cigarette.
Yep, exactly. It's with the unhealthy lifestyle I live. I just assume it's got to be cancer.
Oh, jeez. Do you are you a natural worrier? Do you tend to?
I used to be the hugest hypochondriac. Now, like, I'll worry for about 10 minutes, and then I'll just try and forget about it until it starts bugging me again. Then
This is bothering me. I'm gonna ignore it.
Yep.
That's a good move. I do that so often. It's so bad.
I'm like, hey, if I just croak one day, I'd rather just, like, keel over than, like, have someone tell me I'm dying and then have to worry about it up until the end.
I have those moments where I forget that we're all like, we only. There's the will of the beast. Oh,
And
he just slammed the door in his sleep.
No, the whole building is thin walls. I'm surprised we haven't picked up anything else other than
I know. Thin walls, but you have Roman columns.
Yeah, they make it look all fancy.
This is a very fancy. We are in the Hollywood Hills.
And technically. You wouldn't know by the fact that my car has been broken into twice in our garage.
In the garage?
Yeah, but my fault for leaving it unlocked. But I don't usually keep anything worth stealing.
Yeah.
And then I go in, I realize someone had been in my car, and I noticed all the mixed CDs I had from high school were gone.
Oh,
and like that wouldn't have been a bummer if there weren't also CDs peppered in that were recordings of friends' bands that I don't think I could
You
ever
can't
get those
ever
again.
get.
Yeah.
And it's not going to mean anything to the person that took it.
Exactly. They probably will think it's shitty ska music.
Dude, were you into ska?
I was in a ska.
Yes, I was into ska so much.
Real Big Fish just played the other night with
dude.
Anti-Flag. Such a weird show combination. But
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Real Big Fish, man.
I
Dude,
actually shot Real Big Fish.
Did you
last
really?
year. Yeah.
So I grew up. One of my best friends was in a all Mexican ska band, and they were called Scapatio.
That's clever. Mexican ska was really good.
Oh, yeah?
Especially if they sang in Spanish, yeah, because it was always
Oh, yeah.
faster, really punk. But my friend's band that won the CDs that got stolen, they were called Ska Shank Redemption.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they were good too. They actually, I think, were offered a record deal from Universal, but then they decided to change the name because they didn't want to be stuck with ska music. Because that's so when they were going into the indie phase and they were doing a lot of mushrooms and listening to Mars Volta and stuff.
What are you doing Friday night? Well, I'm gonna do some mushrooms, put on some Mars Volta, and we'll see what happens.
Oh man, those are crazy times in high school. Well, they had already graduated, but I remember I'd go over.
Were they the guys who graduated high school
And
but
still hung
never
out?
left high school?
Exactly. Like they would.
All the teachers are like, Jenkins, what are you doing here?
Well, they wouldn't come back to the school. Well, occasionally they would. They'd come in at lunch and have lunch with us, which is weird. Now I think about, like, when I left high school, I never thought about going to hang out with kids in school again because A, I didn't want to go back to school.
Right.
B, that's creepy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they would always throw house parties, and the kids from high school would still be able to go. And so we'd go get, like, some bottle of UV and the flavored, like, the blueberry one. And
Dude,
we'd go
so
there.
gross.
I'd probably take, like, 4 shots, pretend I was super wasted, try and smoke a little weed, and then I'd just be hanging out trying to hit on girls. And then these guys would be on mushrooms roaming around, like, in their underwear in their house.
You're like, when did this turn into Burning Man? Where did you get an RV? What is going on?
Oh, God, I don't even want to think of those stories, but there was a time when I'm not even getting into it.
I'm just worried. Somehow I said RV and that triggered.
Just the time that I there's 2 different times I hung out at Jesse Hughes from Eagles of Death Metal's place. One before the Paris attack and then one after the Paris attack. Both times crazy times. I'm not going to get into that though, just in case for some reason him or one of the friends I know that know him will get this back to him. So I'm going to leave those untouched. Yeah. He's a great guy, but insane rock and roll artist. He's definitely the like definition of rock and roll.
I got to ask you this too, because you have maintained a professional career in a very entertainment-driven rock and roll-esque environment. So a lot of times people will, once a month they'll go have a wild, crazy night and they'll go to an event.
Yeah.
And you're at these events 5 or 6 nights a week. How do you keep that balance of being present and being engaged in what's going on, but also being able to function and do your job?
Oh, for the longest time, I lied to myself and said I could party as hard as everybody else at the parties every time. And let's just say I drank a lot of vodka Red Bulls and probably amongst anything else. But yeah, there's especially because our publication started based around the Red Bull 30 days the first time they did it, and I did 20 out of the 30 days. So I went to 20 concerts in 1 month, and it was always free Red Bull vodka. So I was like, oh, this will keep me up. But yeah, so I lied to myself. I constantly would just go out, party as hard as everybody else, and I'm surprised I didn't burn bridges with the amount of drinking I was doing. I was always still able to perform. My photos would always still be great, or at least good for what I was doing. And then eventually I just got burnt out. Like, people always tell me, like, oh, you're young, you can work these hours and stuff. I'm like, you don't know what I was doing up.
Fine, that's hilarious.
Me being Italian and talking with my hands all the time, knocking over the mic. So, but you know, I burnt myself out just constantly trying to keep up with the party, because especially when I was doing party photography, I always saw the party photographer as being like that. It's kind of like a photojournalist perspective. It's like you're looking at the photos from the perspective of me. So I would try and enjoy the party and party with people and like get wasted, have fun, and like get people off guard and get photos of them. It makes for good photos, but it's like being in a band. You know, rock stars will go overboard, they get burnt out, and then no longer can do it anymore. So that's why I stopped doing parties and I tried to get into doing rock and roll, and then doing shows was starting to become the same thing. Especially once I lived out here in LA and I could take an Uber to any of these venues. I could get wasted and come home and then do my job. And but with working at the castle, being the fact that I'm on payroll and everything, I don't drink during the job. I do my job, I go home, I call it a day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just calmed down with having a steady paycheck. Steady paycheck has pulled me out of the rock and roll lifestyle.
That's good, man. You know, a lot of people think that entertainment is just that. It's just one big party. But the truth is when you are working in entertainment, you're responsible for the party.
Exactly.
And the minute you can't do the work anymore, you're not invited.
I was always living this lifestyle where, you know, my idols were like Hunter S. Thompson, you know, Darby Crash, or I don't want to say Gigi Allen was an idol, but like it was that idea, like, you know, you're rolling the dice, you're taking a chance whether or not they're going to show up being able to perform the job,
right? Or
if everybody's just going to be beating up this drunk, passed out singer on the floor because he couldn't sing the songs. So, but like, especially with the Hunter S. Thompson idea, when I got into doing journalism, especially because I never talked about this yet, but I also write occasionally for the publications. And when I would do show reviews, I would oftentimes write in the perspective, like, again, like, I was there, I got shit-faced. And so sometimes I just get trashed and try and, like, write out this kind of, like, crazy story of what happened to me and the events I had. Like, Hunter S. Thompson would get sent out to cover sports and stuff, and then all of a sudden the article's no longer about sports because he was writing about this crazy trip he had. And so that's how I started to get into that mentality and tried to let partying create this kind of like, I tried to create a brand of Taylor Wong. It's like, I wasn't selling my photography, I was selling myself as an entity that you're hiring to do your biddings and whatnot. But then I started to realize nobody wants to hire wasted Taylor. so got a little more serious about the work.
Now, how did you go from, because in high school you said you didn't like to write. You didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't your thing. And now that's something that's a part of what you do in journalism. What was that journey like, being the guy who...
What got me to start was the first publication I was working for. They told me they couldn't always get me photo passes, and I just really wanted to go see free concerts. They're like, well, if you're willing to write, we could get you tickets. So I started writing, and for that one, it was more fact-driven. And then when we started Janky Smooth, since it was just the two of us at the beginning, he couldn't always go with me to cover the shows. And even though he was the writer, I was the photographer. Occasionally he'd just be like, do it, write it, and he loved it at first. When he's the one big problem he always said I had was using the word babe. I would always describe that there's a lot of babes at the show, so you had to start coming up. So he's always editing my writing, trying to come up with different words for babies. But yeah, so it was a lot easier to write about stuff that I enjoyed going to and that I was enjoying. And it's always going to be easy to write about things that you actually enjoy. And to me, writing for the yearbook wouldn't have been fun because I could have been writing about sports. I'm not an athlete. And I did the wrestling team at one point, but as far as it went, like I wouldn't be able to write anything about sports. Like I didn't want to write about the clubs. I didn't want to write copy for, just writing copy to write copy. Like it sounded tedious.
Yeah.
I have a friend who works for the Daily Mail. She says that sometimes she'll be given a story on politics. Sometimes it'll be gossip news about the Kim Kardashian and stuff. I'm like, you cannot pay me enough to do that. Like, just have to write your opinion on that. It's crazy though, because I did have someone who I'd never met before come up to me and tell me that they've read every article I wrote for Janky Smooth, at least up to that point.
Yeah.
And like that blew my mind because I would never think of myself as a good writer or writing anything that anybody else would find interesting.
Do you think some of that goes back to high school and like feeling like you weren't doing a good job with?
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, at least for me, I mean, I was the outgoing kid. I was the goofy one, and I still am. But like, I was always told, oh, Taylor's not good at details. Oh, Taylor's not good at projects, and he can't get stuff done because he's just kind of the silly, goofy guy.
Yeah.
And for so long, I believed that, and then I was like, no, I can get crap done. Like, I'll do this and be fun.
Well, my biggest thing was like people always telling me that like I wasn't doing anything or I wasn't putting enough effort into what I was doing. People always had this higher standard than I was ever showing. Like I was always told I should be an A student, even though not once in my life I was getting A's. Like my parents would constantly put me through IQ tests and stuff, and I had a high IQ, and so they kept constantly they would make me retake the gifted and talented entry program test. They made me retake it so many times that finally the instructors gave me the 3 year before how old I was, the test that they give 3 years younger to me.
Yeah.
They gave me that one because they were just tired of hearing from my mom at some point. They were just like letting me into the program. So people always had this higher standard of me that I always felt like I could never reach, so I never wanted to put in that effort.
Yeah.
And now, like, especially working at the castle, even though I technically have a boss, but he and I are never in the same room at the same time. He's never telling me what I need to be shooting. Like, I don't have someone breathing down my neck about the quality of my work or anything. So I'm putting out this work, and all I get is feedback on what people think of it. It's not like it can affect my job. Well, it probably could if it was negative feedback, but all I ever hear is positive feedback, which is something I wasn't used to growing up. So,
oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But it's because you put the work in, man.
Yeah, I try to. Yeah. I definitely try to. I spend long hours in that office in the castle.
Dude, so I got to ask you this because I do production stuff. I mean, this podcast, and then I've done video production and things like that. Have you ever had a nightmare where, like, you shot a whole thing and something wasn't there the next day, or...
Oh, I've woken up in the middle of the night, forget, like, being like, wait, did I back up that stuff before I formatted the memory card? Or was I supposed to send something out yesterday? I wake up like that all the time. It stresses me out because I never thought that those would be the kind of nightmares I had. Yeah. It was all... I actually did have a nightmare the other day where I kept thinking it still involves someone trying to kill me, but at the same time I was trying to get a job done for the castle, and trying to avoid this killer was also pushing my deadline on the castle that I thought I was going to lose my job on top of dying.
How funny you're having a nightmare about someone trying to murder you, and the most stressful part is, wait, I got to get this deadline done. I can't die before the deadline.
What's important to me apparently is getting my job done, which is hilarious because my dad even told me my dad is friends with the guy who got me the job.
Yeah.
At the castle, and he says that every time they talk, like the guy's always telling him that that I have such a great work ethic, and my dad he's like, I'm not trying to offend you or anything, but I never saw that in you growing up. So he's like, it makes me really proud to hear someone else telling me something that I never saw in you. Because he's like, to be honest, I just thought you'd never get to that point.
I got two little girls, and I heard this person talking about their kid, and their kid ended up doing like all this amazing stuff. And they're like, I never took time to get to know their talents and what they were into. And they said, I lived with greatness and I never knew it. I was just like, oh, dude. Like, that just challenged me to, like...
Yeah, I mean, my dad, when I started doing this and started to get paid for it, like I remember my 18th birthday, he tried to really push me to join the Air Force because he thought that I needed some sort of military in my life to create structure.
Yeah,
because I wasn't going. Yeah, so, but then now that I make money, my dad and his dad were both immigrants coming here, and they both want to be photographers, but they couldn't do it because they have families to support. And so my dad has told me like how proud he is that I'm doing what he and his father always wanted to do, and I'm actually making a living from it. And in my opinion, it's like, these two guys came and tried to give my family a good lifestyle. I'm like, I'm not bringing kids into this current world, so might as well make something of what my predecessors have given me, and make a name for all this hard work that they had put in.
You're not just doing it for yourself.
Exactly. No, I'm trying to, because I'm not going to bring him another male Wong. Luckily, my dad had another son, so that's on him now. So my job, in my opinion, is to make something of our name, even though there's actually many famous Wongs. If you Google Taylor Wong, an Asian porn director comes up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then my website comes
right?
up.
You're right. Second on the Google Analytics.
Yep. Josh Stern at the Magic Castle did well on getting me up there on Google, though. I was surprised I Googled my name, and it came up with my website second to the porn directors. Which is ironic since it says Taylor Wong Photography, so it could still be connected to the porn.
Is that his actual last name?
Wong? The porn director?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is ironic too. Yeah, just...
Oh my goodness. Oh, dude, thank you for doing this, man.
Yeah, no problem.
This was fun. How you feel? You feel good?
I like this. This was fun.
This is good. We'll have to do it again sometime.
I'm always down.
How can people check out what you're doing?
TaylorWong.photography.
Yep.
That's the link right there.
Sweet.
I paid extra, so I wouldn't have to have the .com. Then I realized it's a lot harder to find. So that's how you get a hold of me on the internet, or Taylor Wong Photography on Instagram, all one word.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll put the links too on
awesome.
there, so people can just click over to it. And thanks.
Also, disclaimer: there's also some not safe for work content on both Instagram and Facebook, or my website.
Not safe for work. Those are actually links to the website right above his on the Google. Well, dude, we're gonna end this. We're gonna end this by doing some karaoke. So we're gonna sing.
We were gonna do Bohemian Rhapsody.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the sky and see. I'm just a poor boy, I need no sympathy, because I'm easy come, easy go, little heart, little love. Anyway the wind blows doesn't really matter to me.
To me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Taylor Wong. That was right. So that's it for episode 15, guys. So many great episodes coming up. Thanks so much to everyone who's subscribed on iTunes. Continue to like, rate, and share it. It makes a huge difference. It really helps us out. And if you're interested in becoming a producer of the podcast, what is a producer, you might say? Well, guys, a producer is someone who likes this thing so much, loves that it's out there for free, that even though it's free, they still want to kick in a little dough to help out. To become a producer, all you got to do is go to our homepage at abouttobreakpodcast.com, click on the Become a Producer button, and you can decide to donate whatever you'd like, $1 a month, $2 a month, or for $5 million a month. This will be the last time my voice is ever heard anywhere. Katie and I will immediately move to the Cayman Islands with our children, our dog, and a large supply of Doritos. All joking aside, guys, I love this. It's a passion project. I would do it if I never made a single dime, but I'd like to make at least a dime. So check out abouttobreakpodcast.com. Like, share on iTunes. We love you guys. We'll see you later. Bye.